to Marvellous Women, the podcast. I'm Samantha Rush, and I have the absolute pleasure of being the host of this podcast, which is one of the joys of my life. My guest in this episode does lots of different things in her life. She's passionate about empowering women, and she's driven by living a life of purpose. Enjoy. Welcome to Marvellous Women, the podcast. On this episode, we have the lovely Urmi Hossain joining us from Canada. Welcome to the podcast, Urmi.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have this conversation, especially knowing that you're kind of on the other side of the world from me. I've just woken up and you're kind of just finishing off your day. So, Urmi, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Urmi Hossain?
Yes, I like to describe myself as a very dynamic and determined woman. And I am a woman who wears many hats. I always say I'm a corporate professional by day and a creative soul by night. I do a lot of things outside of my 9 to 5 job. However, I'm also very passionate about what I do during my 9 to 5 job. And a lot of the things that I do outside of my 9 to 5 are related to, creating content. So I am a podcaster myself. I am a self-published author, speaker, mentor, blogger, YouTuber, and I'm a big advocate of women's empowerment. I am currently part of an organization called Women in Leadership, and I am the co-chair for the Montreal chapter. So I do dedicate a lot of my time in giving back and helping other women.
And it's such, I think, an amazing thing to do because, I believe, obviously, we have a lot of similarities. I think that the more women can hear women's voices and see women and see different kinds of women, the better that we can be. Urmi, I've got a couple of questions, if I may.
Sure.
I'm really interested. I mean, you do a lot, right? You talked about there, you create content, you do podcasts, you have other kinds of artistry. What is it about all of those different creative pieces that kind of ties them together to you? Because that's a lot.
It is. I would say it's just my desire of being able to create something of my own and also my desire to stand for things that I truly value. So a lot of the work that I do is related to women's empowerment, but also talking about cultural awareness, especially because of
Mhm.
my own background. I do come from a South Asian background and I do have also Italian background. So I was born and raised in Italy, and both of my parents are from Bangladesh. And I do talk about a lot of these things. And the fact that I do support a lot women's empowerment, it also comes from my own personal experience as well on how I've seen
Mm.
women being treated, especially in South Asian community. And often we're seen, like a burden, financial burden. We are often neglected a lot of things, and it's even worse in some it's even worse in some other parts of the world. Like if we speak about, let's say, South Asian countries, sometimes women are not so. I want to say they're not lucky as much as their male counterparts, so I do like to talk about these things, and I would say this is the common thread in everything that I do. That it's always that, wanting to empower women, especially women of color.
Yeah. And does that drive, and I guess I'm really curious about what drives you to do that. You talked about, obviously, having some of your own experiences, but I can imagine that having a 9 to 5, I mean, for me, I work and I'm doing PhD and I have a podcast and I don't have a lot of time left over so for you to be doing all of these things, like there really has to be such a strong drive there for you.
There is, and I also like to live my life with a purpose. Like it's
Mm,
especially after I started to work in the industry, and it's been like 9 years that I'm in the industry. At some point during the beginning of my career, I realized that this is not only what I wanted to do. I wanted
yeah.
to do a little bit more than that. And I was just listening to a podcast this morning where they were saying about people doing other things outside of the 9 to 5, and they were talking how a lot of millennials are doing this, and I do fall in that category. And they're saying how a lot of people, even though they have a full-time job, they like to have this, like they like to create content, and they have this creative side that they like to explore. And for me, it was through a lot of reading. Like I was reading a lot of books, and I was reading books about, how to live your life purposely and how to live your life in a fulfilled manner, that I was like, you know what,
Mm.
let me just look into some of the things that I am passionate about. And I wanted to have that fulfilled life, but also be able to use my time wisely. Like often we think about 9 to 5. Okay, we're done with the 9 to 5. We come home. We're probably tired and exhausted. And often I think what I have seen is the trend that we are watching TV or not doing anything. And me, I was like, no, this is not how I want to use my time. I want to be able to use it in a productive manner. And let me tell you this, like even when I was working, actually, even now that I'm working full time, I was also studying at the same time. And
Yeah.
now that I have a bit more of free time, I'm like, this is it, my chance to live my life in a more satisfied manner. And so that's what gets me going, just the drive of like wanting to give back basically and using my time in a proper manner.
I think that whole thing, Urmi, about finding your purpose and finding that thing that can help move you through, when you're feeling a little bit low or when you're feeling a little bit, unmotivated or something bad
Hmm.
or difficult, challenging happens is such a big driving factor for all humans. And I know that it can be really hard to work out what that thing is. And just yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone. We were talking about what do you want to be when you grow up? And both of us are women in our 40s. And so that whole question of how do you find what that purpose is? And I'd love to hear from you, how did you find what that thing was? You mentioned you did a lot of reading, but there must have also been a process that you went through that said, this is my thing. This is the thing that is really going to be important for me as a purpose. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, let me tell you this. I think what how I was able to find my answer was reading, of course, a lot of books, and there was this book that I really enjoyed. It's called it's a book about the ikigai, which is a Japanese concept that talks about your reason for being or your reason for doing things. And as I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all of these things. And for me, it really started to basically start with my hobbies, what I truly enjoy. And my very first step was really creating my own website and wanting to use my blog as a way to communicate my message to other people. And then the rest just followed through. It was more like a trial and error, to be honest. Like it wasn't like, oh, I want to do this. It was just like it wasn't like, oh, I know what I want to do. I was just like, I'm gonna try this and explore this idea and see if I like it. So for instance, like for the blog, when I first created the website, it was because I had the second purpose, which was to write my book. And when I had the blog, I enjoyed writing it, and I never thought that I would enjoy it. Eventually, I closed the blog because I was like, okay, this is it. I think I had, that was enough, and this wasn't something that I saw myself on a long term. And then I started to explore other things, like having my own YouTube channel, writing my first book, or even creating my own podcast. But my own podcast, I just launched it, and I've been doing all of these things for the past, I would say, 4 to 5 years. So I just launched that. So I always like to embark on a new experience or a new adventure, I would say. And the whole thing about women's empowerment, especially like mentoring or helping other women, I think it just came like when I think about female mentorship, like I was always a mentor when I was in university. Like I was actually a mentor, like like I was getting paid to be a mentor. And then I stopped, but this word mentor just kept showing up in my life. And I saw this as a sign that maybe I'm supposed to be doing something about it. So I started to
Yeah.
look into like female mentorship and how I could be a mentor through different organizations. So I was like, you know what, let me try and see if I can, work with women or, mentor them. And so that too, just something that I was open to the idea of trying something new. So everything I've done, it was just out of my, curiosity, I would say. Yeah.
There's a couple of things that you talked about in there, Urmi, that I think are really important. One of them is seeing these things as a experiment or something to try, as opposed to something that you have to do and something that you have to stick with until you get perfect. And I think that that's really important. It takes, in my mind, it really just takes the pressure off. Look, if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. I'm going to see if I enjoy the process. If I do, great. If I don't, that's okay. And I love when you talked about that you finished off your blog. You're like, okay, I'm going to close this project now. Like it's
Yeah.
done what it needed to do. And I think sometimes when we've been doing something for a long time, we kind of like we feel like we're really attached to it and we feel
Mhm.
like we can't let it go. Can you tell us a little bit more about how did you make that decision to close that project? Because I think that is really important. How do you know when to close the door on something?
Yeah, you know what? I actually felt really bad when I closed my blog. I felt really, really awful about it because I remember when I
Mm.
first created it, I was super excited, but I was also feeling, I want to say, a bit exhausted because I was creating a website and I had no clue how to do it. So I was watching a lot of YouTube videos and trying to figure out how to use, like, the whole platform. And however, once I created and I saw the feedback that I got, I was like, wow, people are actually reading it. And even though I might not be, you know, impacting so many people, those few people that are reading it, I feel like it's doing the job. So I had it for 4 years, and every year I was like renewing my, you have to pay that the website to use the website. So every year I was renewing it. But I remember as time passed by that I was thinking this is not the thing I want to have on a long term. And I think I was realizing that I was not committed as much from the beginning. I feel like I was not putting in the time as much as I wanted. And I think with the blog, what was the issue is that you have to be consistent with the work that you deliver. Like you cannot just post once and then leave it there and post again in another 3 months because people are expecting that you're posting things. And I remember when I closed it that I was like, I don't know if this is the right decision, but will this make me feel better? Like will I feel lighter? That's what I was thinking. And on top of that, I was
Mm.
talking with some of my friends who had a blog, and they were like, blogs, as much as they are, a good way to communicate your message, not everyone has time to read. And so
Yeah.
little by little, I try to switch away from that. But what happened is I actually found different website where they always need someone to write an article. So I started to write on occasional basis in different website. Like at least I don't have the commitment to myself of writing every week for my own blog, but I can write, I don't know, once a month if there is an article for an organization or for a website they're looking for someone to write on a particular theme. So that's how I was able to shift away from the blog, and I still write, but I write for other people basically.
So you're still doing the activity, you're still living that purpose, you're still doing the same thing, but you're just doing it in a different way that
That's
makes
right.
it more accessible and potentially like maintaining that excitement and that commitment, but without the obligation.
That's right. That's right. And the good thing about, when you have your own website, I think it's great, especially if you were talking about personal branding and you're wanting people to know you for who you are. But I also think that even if you don't have a website, but you are mentioned in different websites, that's still part of your portfolio of the work that you
Yes.
have done. So that's also
Yeah.
a good way to build your personal brand. And for me, it
Yeah.
was really finding the right thing for me without feeling overwhelmed, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, fascinating. And the other thing I'm curious about, Urmi, is some of your current projects that you're working on, do you have kind of like I'll close this project down when, and you've kind of got an idea of this is what this might look like, and if it gets to this point where I don't have that anymore, I'll close it down.
Uh, no, not really. As soon as I close my blog, I just focus on my YouTube channel and I'm trying to work on that and I'm trying to grow it. And I feel like, you have to find the right fit. And I feel like YouTube is
Yeah.
able to get too many people in it, like more people than a blog. And then I started on a new project, which is having my own podcast. But I'm so excited about having a podcast that I don't see this being closed anytime soon. So I want to explore it and see how much I can grow. And I love the
Yeah.
connection that I get through interviews and meeting people. Whereas with the blog, it's a bit different. You're just on your own writing stuff.
Yes.
And I think I'm just adding things on my plate, to be honest, instead of just removing stuff.
And will there come a point for you where you just think my plate is full? My plate is full, or is it about going, okay, Urmi, if you want to add something to your plate, you have to take something off your plate to be able to add the new thing. Have you had that kind of talk with yourself?
Yeah, I did. I always do. And that's why every time I take on a new project, I make sure that it's aligned with myself and my values and if it's truly important for me or not. And I do think carefully before starting on a project, especially because I think it's important to put those boundaries even with yourself and making sure that you're not taking too much stuff. So
Yeah.
I do think carefully before taking on something new. Although there's always that excitement of trying something new, if I have to say the truth.
There's like the shiny, the new thing that's yeah, I understand. So tell us a little bit about your podcast. So have you already launched your podcast or you're currently in the process of putting it together?
No, I already launched it. It's actually been 2 months now that I think about it. Yeah, it's been 2 months. I launched it in August 6th, and that was a lot of work. I have to say the truth. Putting together a podcast is it's really not that easy, and I can see the amount of work that goes behind. And basically, it's called Stories Beyond Borders, and it's a podcast about immigration stories, people, moving around from one country to another. It's about language learning. It's about the different cultures, people being multicultural. And with my podcast, especially because it takes a lot of work and when it comes to editing and so forth, I'm recording. I'm doing like batches of recordings, and I release an episode every 3 weeks because even that, like, I have to make sure that I am consistent with that. And releasing a podcast episode every day would be a lot of work for me because even the editing, I have to learn it on my own. I don't have someone helping me, and a lot of the things that I do, it's just me doing them. So I want to make sure that I'm doing a good a good work instead of like doing a bad work and releasing stuff without paying attention.
Yeah, I think that is very aligned with the reason that you're doing it. So if you're doing something that's very important to you, so therefore it's important that the quality is good to have the best impact. And
Yeah.
actually, so I do a newsletter every 2 weeks in my work, and I have one coming out today, and it is literally about work slop and the impact of work slop in terms of influence. So if you're not putting in the care
Yeah.
and the intention into what it is that you're doing and you're just chucking something into chat gpt saying, hey, give me whatever,
Hmm.
the impact that that has in terms of your ability to influence others is really significant. So I think, you're so aligned there with, this is something important to me, I want to make sure that I can do it well and that I can do it consistently in a way that will meet my audience's expectations, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah, that's very important. I had to think about it like truly because let's say I release an episode every 3 weeks, but in between, like on my Instagram, I am posting things. For instance, I am doing like a spotlight of my guests. I'm like quoting like their favorite book, and then the week after, I'm asking them to tell me what's your favorite quote, and I'm gonna make a post about it. So like those
Yeah.
2 weeks, like I release it every 2 weeks, but in between I am still like, how do you say? I'm still promoting that episode so that people
Yeah.
can listen to it, and it's not just okay, she's gone for 2 weeks. And I also made it clear to my audience that this is gonna be released every 2 weeks. At least you make sure that they know what to expect, and it's not something that's
Yeah.
gonna be there frequently. Yeah.
So, Udemy, you ask your guest and you post on what is their favorite quote. What is your favorite quote?
I have too many. That's the problem. But
You can give me two.
oh, okay. So the first one is called "Be the Change You Want to See in the World" by Gandhi, and
Yes.
that's the reason why I do a lot of these things is because I want to see changes in the world, and the change can only start from me. So that's the first one, and the second one it's from Kate Spade, and it says "Leave a sparkle everywhere you go." And which is very much aligned with a lot of the things that I do. Like anything that I do, I always want to make sure that I am leaving, I'm like leaving an impact on someone's life or inspiring
Yeah.
someone through my action, whether it is by, helping them with something, whether it is through a smile. And I think it's important to do that. So everything that I do, it's because I really want to inspire people. So I really like that quotation.
I love that. I haven't heard that one before, but like it reminds me of Tinkerbell, with the
Yeah,
pixie
yeah, yeah.
dust. Sprinkle
Yes,
some pixie dust everywhere because it can help everybody to fly.
that's it. Yeah.
Love that. So, Urmi, if you looked up the dictionary and saw marvelous women, whose face would you see there?
Okay, I watch a lot of I want to say like movies like superhero movies. Okay, so I watch a lot of superhero movies, and when I see that word, I'm just thinking about Wonder Woman, the actual the character Wonder Woman. I really love
Yes.
the character and how she saves the world and so forth. And every time I watch a lot of her movies. That's what I think. I think about Wonder Woman, someone who's able to save the world and, solve all the issues in the world.
I think that that speaks really well with, the the whole package of you in terms of wanting to make an impact and wanting to see change, and not just wanting to see change, but looking for the parts that you can change to have an
Yes.
influence. I think that's really fantastic.
Yes, and I don't know if someone ever I don't know will ask me to like someone asked me to do a movie, I would say I would like to be like Wonder Movie. And I love action movies, and the actress like looks so good in the movie. Like I just like that character. I really like that character.
So how do you, just going back to I suppose your version of Wonder Woman,
hmm
Urmi Wonder Woman, uh looking for the things that you know that you can change. How do you pick what's the right size piece that's it's not too small that it will do nothing, but not too big so that it becomes impossible? What's the right size piece to try and change? I know that's a hard question.
It is a hard question. And this goes back to another expression that I heard where they say, eat an elephant one bite at a time. And I do like to believe in the idea that anything that you do, you always have to start small, but you always have to stick to small to see the final product.
Yeah.
And for me, like when I think about, making an impact and being Wonder Woman, for instance, like I do a lot of female mentoring, and I started with mentoring through volunteering 5 years ago, and it started with one person. But now that I've been doing this for the past 5 years, I think in total I have mentored like probably 15 to 20 women. So for me, it
Mm.
was really starting small and now seeing the result. I started with one, and now I have 20, and probably in a couple of years will have, I don't know, 10 more people. But I know that I am making an impact in this woman, because some of the women do come back to me and they talk about me to other people, how much I have helped them. And I also like to keep those relationships no matter what. Like it's not always about
Yeah.
mentor relationship, it's about human connection, genuine connection, spontaneous connection with people. And I do some like check-in with my past mentees and make sure that everything is okay with them. Yeah.
So now that you've been doing this for 5 years and you've had so many ladies that you've worked with, what's like the top one or two things that you've found that I suppose are the biggest challenge for the women that you've been helping?
So a lot of the times I would say we go back to this word which is, imposter syndrome, and I do see it a lot in the with the women that I speak to. I can see how
Mm,
a lot of them have a sort of like a lack of sense of like how do you say, like they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in their
yeah,
talent, they don't believe they're good enough, and I can see it. And a lot of the
yeah,
times I also see the struggle that they have, let's say, in finding their voice, pursuing their passions, probably because they have other commitments at home. And another thing that
mm,
I've been seeing a lot, and this was also discussed in one of our meetings at Women in Leadership, was this need for women to do things in relation to wellness. Like let's say in
yeah,
Women in Leadership, we talk about how we want to help women to climb the corporate ladder, but often in times these women are also thinking about their their wellness, they're feeling good, there's self-care,
yeah,
going to like a walking group, participating into a walking group, working out, just time for themselves. And I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of these women are pretty much drained by having their full-time job, and maybe they're mothers and they need to take care of their kids, and so it's quite draining, so they never find time for themselves. So that has
mm,
been, I would say, a recurring conversation. And the
yeah,
other thing that has been also coming up in a lot of the conversations are more related to careers. Like I mentor this young woman who is in her 20, and she has been struggling to find an internship and so forth. Now she eventually found it, and she was able to get her feet wet in the industry, but that has been a struggle as well. And especially when you're like out of university, it's pretty hard. We all know that it's not easy to find a job. And so that has
yeah,
been another thing, finding a job, understanding how to navigate this. And especially I feel like we're talking about Gen Z here, right? So they had to take some classes online during the whole, pandemic era and so
yes,
forth. So it's
mm,
another kind of struggle that they're facing. They've never been in an office once, they started working, they've never been in the office, so they don't know how to interact with people, how to network
yeah.
with people. So I'm always like suggesting these ideas of like you should participate to networking events even though you're not necessarily going there to look for a job or find a job. Just make sure yourself visible and leave and make sure that you're making an impact and or leaving a good impression on someone. You never know what this kind of connection might lead to eventually. So these are some of the things I'm sharing.
And I think the other thing that one of my favorite, Urmi, I have a habit of asking really long questions, right? So there is that. Um, I think that one of my favorite things is seeing how people come full circle. So you talked about very early in our chat, just bringing things like a curiosity lens to things and an experimentation lens, and just try it and see what happens. Don't go
Yeah,
with any with any set idea in your mind of what's going to happen. And that's exactly what you've just talked about. Go to the networking events. Don't go with an end in mind. Just go
yeah,
with an open mind and see what happens. Just experiment. Go and talk to people and maybe just, focus on, meeting as many people as you can, or meeting
yeah.
someone like totally new. And I think having that mindset of let's just see what happens is so important to not putting yourself under pressure.
That's it. And I think I'm like whatever I do, I also tell this to other people to go and try it and never feel
Yeah,
like you have an obligation, like because I also say like doing something new might spark something in you that maybe you did not think about
absolutely.
before, you will probably
Yeah,
start untapping on some of things and maybe one thing will lead to another thing, like I think
yeah,
it's very important to be open-minded when it comes to those things and just explore and try different things.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Urmi, I have one more question for you, and that is, What's the most important decision that you have ever made, and how did you do it?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question. Uh, what's the most hard decision I've taken?
The most important.
Oh, the most important decision. Hmm.
Yeah.
So I have one decision that I have made. This was in relation to my career, where I said yes to a job, and after 6 weeks, I had to quit because I got another offer. And let me tell you this, it was a very hard decision, but also a very important one for me
Mm,
because, like, I remember I got like a couple of offers that just happened at the same time, and I just said yes to the one that came first. But as I was in this company, I realized that I was not enjoying it as much. And
mm,
I was telling myself, I don't think I see myself doing this more than 2 months. And then the second offer came, but that was something that really was like whether I was going to say yes or no, it was going to make a big deal in my career. So at the end, I had to quit this job to get for this other job. And this was the best decision that I have ever made to myself because the company that I am working for right now, it was a company that I applied for when I was in university. They were speaking about many years ago, and I was getting rejected. And then finally, you know, after I would say 5 to 6 years, 6 years in, I reapplied again and they finally called me. And I was like, this is where I see myself being in, in the future. I see myself growing there. So I said yes to that, but it did not come easy for me. But it was also important that I was being honest to myself in that moment, like, did
yeah.
I say yes to the other company because I just wanted to have a change, or did that truly matter to me? And so I had to work a lot on myself during that period. And I was talking to so many people because I was like, I don't know what to do. Suddenly everyone wants me in their company. Um, but when I look back, I'm like, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I made that decision. Yeah.
It sounds like you closed that project.
Yes.
You
Very
closed
quickly.
that project, and you opened a new project
Yes.
that had more more alignment with you and what you wanted and where you were going.
Yeah, that's it. I did feel quite bad when I had to take that decision because it does not belong to me. That if I start working somewhere, I leave that place after a couple of weeks. But it was important that I was doing something that truly was aligned with me and was really aligned with what I have studied, what I saw myself in the future. So there was a lot of work that I had to do to get to that answer. And one of my friends finally, she was like, come on, you probably knew the answer because this was the company I always wanted to work for, but I guess it did not come easy because I was just feeling bad of like closing the previous project, I guess. Yeah.
Well, Urmi, from meeting you today and having this chat with you, I can see you are a very aligned person, and there's lots of consistency in who you are and how you act and what you do. So I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Urmi, thank you so much for sharing your stories, your insights, and the quotes that you love. And I really love that one. Leave a sparkle everywhere you go. Until next time, everyone, stay marvelous.